Good morning, everybody. This is Damon Bond from Bond Realty Group, LLC, located in Bridgeport, Connecticut, licensed in the state of New York, licensed in the state of Connecticut, real estate broker in Connecticut, real estate salesperson in New York. I hope everybody's doing well today. It's a little gloom here in the Northeast, but that's okay, though. My spirits are high. First of all, I want to say if you missed my last video, it went on Facebook, but not YouTube, so I do apologize for that. But you can check me out on Facebook as well. If you have any questions, you can always email me at dbond011 at gmail.com. You can post a question on Facebook as well. That's fine. That's D in initial my first name, Bond, B-O-N-D, my last name, 011 at gmail.com. All right, so I hope everybody's doing good today. So far we talked about the home buying process in terms of credit, obtaining a mortgage, down payment, all those other wonderful things, the just different types of property structures. So today we're going to talk about, you have all this, you know what you want to get, you know what kind of dwelling you want to get, you have your down payment all situated, you have your pre-approval letter already on hand. So today we're going to talk about what happens when you actually engage an agent, when you find an agent. Well, first let me use some terminology for you just so you'll know. Frequently when I give my salutations, I'll say licensed real estate licensed real estate broker and licensed real estate salesperson. I do that for a reason. And the reason why is because a lot of people may not be aware of some terminology, but you have what we call a real estate broker, and we have what we call a real estate agent. What's the difference between the two? A real estate broker is someone who has total responsibility of what goes on in their brokerage. So they're responsible. So even though a broker may have individual agents with different listings meaning house for sale, all those listings belong to the brokerage. Those are the brokerage houses. So it doesn't matter if, let's say, John Doe or Jane Doe or Susie Q or, Tom Harry, whatever it is, have, their 3 or 4 individual listings. All those are with the broker. A real estate agent is someone who is authorized and permitted to work under a broker. So basically, that's the difference between the two. Is one higher than the other one? Only in the sense of in terms of credentials. But you have agents out there who've been agents for 30 years who are a wealth of knowledge. They have a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of contacts, and they're very, very solid people. So I don't want you to get caught up on between the two. Between an agent and a broker. Both people have to be licensed by the state of Connecticut. Both people have to take or New York or California, wherever you may be. But I'm just saying Connecticut and New York because that's my base point over here. But you have to be licensed. You have to take continuing classes. So this is all necessary in order to upkeep your license. So just to keep that in mind. So that minute detail is out the way. So you want an agent. You want somebody to find a house for you, right? So how do you engage them? Well, first of all, when, people usually know other people, so if you're not sure how to get an agent, if you belong to a civic organization, a religious organization, if you're a church, mosque, or synagogue, you ask somebody, you can ask a colleague who was your real estate agent when you bought your house or you sold your house, whatever it is. So usually somebody knows an agent, so that's the easy part to do. Now, once you find that agent, particularly in the state of Connecticut and New York, that agent typically will meet with you, find out what what your wants and needs are in terms of purchasing a home. Your budget is the biggest part of it, and then they'll probably ask you, and they should ask you. Here in Connecticut is actually a state statute to fill out what we call a buyer's representation agreement. A buyer's rep agreement is to protect both the buyer and the real estate agent. This is how real estate agents make sure they get their commission, all right? This is how buyers are protected from unscrupulous real estate agents. Basically, a typical buyer's rep agreement will have the people who are searching for a home, their names, where they're searching for a home, the parameters, so you're not all over the place. So, for example, in New York, it'll be, let's say, the 5 boroughs in New York City, or not Staten Island because that's kind of far. In Connecticut, it'll be maybe Fairfield, New Haven County, not Hartford County or Litchfield County, which is way in the other part of the state. So you'll have location, and then you'll have the price amount approximately, usually up to $200,000 or $500,000 it may be. And then from there, it'll stipulate about fees that may or may not be paid. What you'll do for them, your fiduciary responsibility to your to the client, meaning that agents can't disclose your personal business to anybody. That's for them and for them to keep. I mean, there's a whole bunch of horror stories with that, with agents disclosing stuff. And yes, you can lose your license and get sued for that. It will disclose your rights, and also it will let you know how long the lease agreement is for. When I'm working with clients, typically I sign either a 6-month or a year agreement, and these can be renewed. So you may say, well, I don't want to sign up with any agent or anything like that. That's fine. You don't have to. In the state of Connecticut, you sign what's called, if you want to see a house, if you want to see a house and you don't have a buyer's rep, then you can sign what's called a non-representation person. I'm just paraphrasing. I forgot the exact name for it. But anyway, what this does is says, listen, this agent doesn't have any fiduciary responsibility to you. You are a customer, not a client. There's a difference. You are a customer, and yes, you're showing this house to them, and then that's it. Okay, now that's fine as long as they have something so they know who you are, because remember, you're going into people's homes, and the agent doesn't know you or anything like that. So that's what it is. All right, so that's why that's important in terms of that buyer's representation agreement. Like I said, if you want more information on that, you can email me at dbond011@gmail.com, dbond011@gmail.com. So you have your buyer's rep agreement. Everything is there. You'll sign it. Now, if for some reason you're not happy with the agent you're working with, you can always actually cancel. Just write a letter, right, saying you don't want to, work with them anymore, and then nobody's going to say, no, I demand you work with us, right? That's ridiculous. That doesn't happen. And then the agreement between the two parties, meeting of the mind, is canceled. So that's what that is, all right? That's a very, very, very important document, because I know a lot of agents that are scared to ask people to sign that because they fear that, might turn them off for anything. But it's important for them to do that because, first of all, it's a law here in the state of Connecticut. New York has their own thing as well. But this is what you do. You want to represent you want to make sure you get paid as agents and buyers. You want to make sure that you are protected as well. Because typically what happens is this. A lot of times buyers will see a house, they see a for sale sign with a name writer. A name writer is a name and a number associated with that. Or they'll go on Realtor.com or the other one, Zillow.com, and they see a house they're interested, so they'll call. That agent does not represent you. They will disclose certain information, for customers, how big the house is, the square footage, things like that. But they don't need, and they will not tell you anything else. They represent the seller. That's why we have buyer rep agreements. So they say, yeah, sure. We're going to show you something, absolutely, right? But they represent the seller. So let's say you will say something erroneous like, I'll pay more than twice the value of this house. I'm willing to get it that bad, right? That's fine. That agent's going to bring that back to their clients, right? So they do not work for you. If you go to an open houses are very popular in Connecticut. They're on Sundays usually, sometime in the afternoon. In New York, they're on Saturdays, right? So if you go to an open house, you browse around, you see. The first thing they'll ask you, rightly so, they have to, is, are you represented? Are you working with an agent? Meaning, did you sign the buyer's rep agreement? If you say no, then they say, okay, they're going to keep in head that you are just a customer. You're not a client of theirs. You're a customer. They represent the seller. They work for the seller. All right. So just keep that in mind. They work for the seller. Always remember that. Unless otherwise duly noted, they work for the seller. So that's something very, very, very important to remember. So like I said, this form is not to scare you. It's just to offer protection. It has to be done under many states have the statute about buyer representation. So that way the buyers feel someone is looking out for them. Now, another question people usually ask me is, can an agent represent both the buyer and seller? The answer to that question is, in many states, yes. You can in New York and you can in Connecticut. However, here's that big however, you have to get approval. Well, in Connecticut, you have to get approval from both parties. In New York, it's only from the sellers you have to get approval from. If I'm not mistaken, they just changed that around or something like that. I'll double check that though. But yes, you have. But the bottom line is you have to get approval. Is what we call dual agency. Dual agency is when you are working for both the buyers and the sellers. Right. So basically, let's say you go to that open house, or you see that, sign and that name writer and whatnot, the for sale house, you love it, you're absolutely in love with it, everybody loves it. You call the agent. So the agent will ask, are you working with anybody? You'll say no. You say, okay. Well, I work with the seller. I'll just let you know before we go on, anything you tell me, I can disclose to the seller. However, if you want me to represent you and give you fiduciary responsibilities, just like I'm giving to my seller, then I'm going to need you, with your permission, to represent both the seller, okay, and yourself. And then they'll have another form what's called, it usually is a dual agency consent form, which both parties will fill out. So the seller will agree to it and the buyer will agree to it. Now, obviously, what's in it for the broker or agent is the fact that they're going to get both sides of the transaction. They're going to get the commission. They're going to get both sides, the whole commission. So they're going to get the sellers in and they're going to get the buyers in. So agents love dual agency. Is what we call in-house listings. Now, for the sellers, they wouldn't mind it because they're like, well, you work hard. So yes, you should be entitled to both sides. And plus, I will be reassured that this deal will actually come together. It won't fall apart. Because you'll be in it. The buyer, same thing. The buyers will say, well, they'll make sure that the deal lasts because number one, you have incentive. You want to get both sides of the commission. And number two, you are in a loophole because let me tell you something. The average real estate transaction involves a plethora of people. All right. So remember, you're dealing with two agents, the buyer's agent and the seller's agent. That's two people. You're dealing with attorneys, the buyer's attorney and the seller's attorney. That's four people. You're dealing with the appraisal, 5 people. You're dealing with the mortgage company, 6 people. You're dealing with the home inspector, if there's one. That's possibly 7 people. And you're dealing with, so you have at least 7 people involved in this transaction. It could be more. That's a lot of people. Well, just think about it. If you're both the buyer's and seller agent, you're eliminating 2 people. That's less. So everything comes to you. So if the deal falls apart, it's you to blame. So that's why sometimes buyers and sellers both like it. Now, can you refuse? Absolutely. In that case, if you refuse, say, no. You represent the seller. I want to get my own person. That's fine. You could do that. It is your legal right. In that case, sometimes the broker will then say, all right, if it's a large brokerage, I got somebody in my office. All right. Jane is going to represent you. All right. And Tom is going to represent the sellers. So that way, it's 2 different agents. It's the same brokerage because the listing is with the same brokerage firm. But here it is. You're going to represent the buyer. You'll have your own representation. And this person will represent the seller. So they have their representation. That's fine. You could do that as well. You just have to decide whichever one is going to meet, is going to be best for you. Okay, so that's a buyer's rep agreement. There's no money exchange at this point. All right, it's just a form you're filling out. No money. Just get a copy of everything. They should provide you a copy, but you want a copy. No money is to be paid out. And I will be talking about when you actually find a home and how to make an offer in my next video clip. And what do you do from there? And what monies will be expected to be paid out? Now, in terms of the commission side is 90% of the time, 95% of the time is given from the sellers. The sellers pays out the commission. All right. But there's a section of the form, and it varies from place to place. Some place it could be, just in case the sellers don't pay, then you're in the hook for the commission. And this could be 3% of the purchase price of a house, or it could be a flat fee of $6,000, or however it was worded, right? But usually the commission, most of the time, it is norm, it's tradition, not tradition, I hate that word, it's standard, I guess you will, that the commission is paid off by the seller side, not the buyer side. But in the case that the seller doesn't pay, then you got to pay your agent. And like I said, there's forms for that and what have you that they'll disclose to you. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this was useful. If you have any questions, just email me, dbond011@gmail.com. So this is Damon Bond from Bond Realty Group. Hope you're well. Hope you're safe. Have a wonderful, pleasant rest of the day. Thank you. Good day.